Welcome to the show, Kelly. Thank you so much for being here. Kelly is joining me from Wisconsin in the United States. Probably a little cold and dreary there. Are you guys having a nice day?
It's actually very sunny. It's very chilly and windy, kind of like you said before. So not enjoying that, but I'll take the sunshine.
Yeah, so nice when you have the sunshine. I know it's a little
Yeah.
dark. It's dark here today and
Yeah.
it's tough. So, well, thank you so much for coming on. And
Yeah.
why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Introduce us to you.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Kelly. I'm born and raised in Wisconsin, and I absolutely love it. I love the Midwest. The winter is not so much, but the summers and fall, you can't beat it anywhere else. I currently work at a Montessori school with 4 to 7 year olds, and I love it. It actually kind of made me fall back in love with education. So I'm actually thinking of going back for my bachelor's in elementary education. So it's been keeping me busy, kind of tinkering with that. But yeah, I have a huge passion for kids, and I love working with them. And as you can see on my picture, I have a little dog, and he's my little baby, and I love him so much. But
What's his
that,
name? He's so cute.
his name is Red. He's just a Doxy Beagle mix, and he's pretty cute. He's my little
Yeah.
pal.
Oh, I love it. So, for everyone who's listening, we also do have the show on YouTube. So, you can go there and watch. It's linked in the show notes. Just a little time for me to plug that. But that's where you can see Kelly's dog because he will be on the front with her and her picture of our thumbnail. So, well, great. Well, let's chat a little bit about, endometriosis and how things started with you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, perfect.
So
Um,
yeah, tell us how like what happened first that brought you into this journey.
okay. So I guess I started like my periods were pretty normal. Kind of happened around seventh grade, so like 13-ish kind of. And they were pretty normal, like didn't think anything of it. Things were going good. And then like around eighth grade, kind of getting into high school, they just became like crazy heavy. Like they lasted, if it was 7 days only, that was considered short. Like they'd be 2 weeks long, like ridiculously heavy, like just crazy. So then I kind of like at the first I just thought it was kind of normal. I'm like, I guess this is just what I got. Like, and at the time I didn't really have many like close friends. And I feel like at that age I was like so embarrassed by it all. Like I was not gonna ask anybody. We weren't talking about it, like nothing. Um, so yeah, I was like, this whatever. And so then eventually I just got so sick of it. I'm like, I'm sick of like having to be like the biggest tampon and pads would only last me a few hours. Like, I'm like, this really just doesn't feel normal to me. And so I very embarrassingly one day, like, kind of brought it up to my mom. I'm like, is this normal? Like, is this whatever? And so then she kind of said that that's what happened to her when she was a kid. And kind of went into this. And she actually ended up kind of saying that she had endometriosis and actually needed a hysterectomy at like 25 or something like crazy young. It was got so
Wow.
bad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So then like pretty much right away, she's like, we got to get you in somewhere. Like, I'm not kind of going to continue this cycle. So yeah, I kind of first doctor visit was around 15 or 16 years old.
Wow. And at this time, so one really quick thing is everybody knows
Yes.
hysterectomy is not a cure for endometriosis. Just always want to say that when we talk about
Mm-hmm.
hysterectomy. But um, at that time, was it just still the heavy bleeding? Was there anything else? Did you have any other like back pain or like stomach upset when you were on? Were there any other symptoms that you recall?
The my stomach, I kind of get very nauseous. That was kind of it. But for me, it was just really like the heavy, like
Yeah.
clotty periods. That was kind of my main symptom at the time.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to the doctor, 15, 16. How
Yes.
does that appointment go?
It actually went very well. She tested my iron right away and then pretty much immediately said that I should at least try birth control. And she called me back with like the lab results and she kind of just said, oh, you have just like a little low iron, like nothing to worry about, but we just want to get you on like an iron supplement as you start this birth control. And then at the time, I went into like the patient portal app, whatever they give you. And I looked, and the iron was like close to like the lowest it could be. Like it was way down there. And I'm like, okay, so I know that that's not what's supposed to be happening.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There it's it's interesting that you mentioned that because I just had some blood work done, and also like you can look at the portal yourself, and I know I'm not a doctor, but they
Yeah.
show ranges, right? There's a
Yes. Yes.
range, and the doctors are, oh, you're fine. And I'm like looking
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, but I'm way out of range on like vitamin D or like B12.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, like I just don't
Yes.
understand why that
No.
happens.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so were you, with having low iron too, I bet were you feeling really weak all the time, like just tired and weak?
I surprisingly wasn't. Like I think maybe a little more weak, but for how low it was, I was kind of surprised how well I was actually doing with
Yeah.
it.
And so you started taking then iron, and then did you go on a birth control?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Just the typical yes or whatever they kind of hand
Right.
out. But
And
yeah.
how did that help with the heavy bleeding?
Yeah, it went away. I was on it for the rest of high school, like no complaints. It worked. It got my iron levels back up. Everything was good. Yeah.
Good. So you felt like through the rest of high school, this was your protocol and you felt good.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt really good. Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
great. I mean, that's amazing. So what happened after high school?
So the summer of 2020 was a really fantastic year anyway, but kind of right after like high school graduation, like it just like one day something changed. I was just exhausted. I just had no energy, and then that just kind of led into being depressed because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't like exercising. I wasn't doing my normal activities. And then it was like the height of COVID, so nothing was really open anyway, and it was just like a disaster. And one day I went to a store to do something, and my mom looked at me and she's like, I saw like the old you for like 20 minutes. She's like, I saw that energy. I saw you were laughing. I saw you're excited. And she's like, you came home and you were just like a shell. She's like, there just wasn't you. And then it kind of hit me, and she's like, I think you need to go like back to a doctor or see if something has changed, because she's like, you are just not you.
She could
um
just tell. Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, then that kind of started the slew of doctor appointments to pick back up towards the end of 2020.
And what were you going to, like your OB/GYN, or were you going to like a PCP? Like what appointments did you have? What tests were they doing?
So I first started with just my PCP, and she brought up the idea of therapy, and so I started doing that. I'm still on it, and I absolutely love it. Totally changed me, but it just still wasn't cutting it. It wasn't. I realized it just wasn't the stress of COVID and whatever else.
Right.
So then I kind of asked some other people, like other OBs they liked, looked at reviews. I went to a few of them. The review I got from them was to just try different birth control.
Of
One
course.
told yeah, one told me I should just wait until I want to have kids to figure this out. Like I'll be fine till then. One told me kind of in a nice way that it was kind of making up that I thought it was endometriosis. She's like, oh, that fatigue doesn't really fit the symptom list.
And were you
And
say did you say like, but my mother had endometriosis?
my mom, her mom, and her sister have all had fertility or endometriosis issues, and that they did not care.
They just were like, here, try a different birth control, or here,
Yes.
yeah, no
Mm-hmm.
real solutions.
No, no.
So did you find what other symptoms besides like fatigue and feeling off? Were you having anything else at this time? Were you nauseous or any pain or anything?
No, and I think that is what it was, pretty much just this like fatigue and worn out. And I think that's not like, maybe it's an excuse for some of the doctors, not really, but I think that's what tripped them up, is like I wasn't having the pain, I wasn't nauseous, there was no like it just was that fatigued.
Well, and I talk about this all the time in the show. I'm sure everybody's sick of me saying it, but the endo just presents itself so differently. And when you
Mm-hmm.
say, I think people misinterpret fatigue if they don't have endo or they don't have something that causes chronic fatigue, because this isn't like, oh, I need to lay on the couch for 20
Yeah.
minutes. It is like you put on a 200-pound backpack
Mm-hmm.
and somebody like hit you in the face with like a 2x4. It's
Yeah.
like like I remember getting out, like sometimes getting out of the shower when I was having that type of fatigue. And like, I would then have to lay, like the shower was so much that I would have to lay down to recover from the shower. And then it took me like everything in my power to get dressed to then like try and go to work. So and I'm guessing that's the type of fatigue where it's just,
Yes.
it's like, and I say to people, it's like walking through jello. It's like walking through cement,
Mm-hmm.
like every movement. So it's not just, I'm tired. It is like moving mountains to like do
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think if you've never experienced that level of fatigue, I feel like people do not understand when you say like, I'm really, or like brain fog, fatigue. Like if you haven't experienced it, like you probably just think, oh, take a 20-minute nap, you'll be fine. But it's not. It's so heavy. It's just like a heavy feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you were feeling. Right. So it's so hard to do anything.
Yes. Yeah.
So what happened? Did you find a doctor that was listening to you, or what were the next steps?
So then it was about like October, end of October, I finally went to I found a new doctor. And I think the appointment lasted like maybe 20 minutes. And I kind of walked in and like I think I just kind of got out the part about like the really heavy periods. I didn't even get to the fatigue. And he just goes, he's like, yeah, that's not normal. He's like, there's something going on. And he's like, we need to figure out what this was. I probably could have cried. I probably was tearing up because I'm like, you're actually listening? Like what?
Yeah.
Like yeah, so he right away, and then I kind of told him the fatigue, and he's like, yeah, he's like, that's not normal. He's like, you're 19, not normal.
Right. You were 19 years old. You should be like out having fun with your friends and like sleeping like 6 hours a night. Not saying I condone that, but I'm sorry, when I was 19, that's what we were doing, right? We were having fun. Yeah.
Yes. And so yeah, pretty much right away, he's like, if you're good with it, he's like, I want to do a whole bunch of labs. He's like, I want to set you up for an ultrasound. And he's like, I want to get you on the surgery wait list. And it was like all done within like an hour, had all those appointments set up. And I remember walking out to the car and my mom was waiting for me. And I was just like, I had like a pile of papers and I was like he actually listened. I'm like, I have things scheduled. Like, I just was so happy that like somebody listened and got it and understood it.
Yeah. And I'm so happy hearing that right now, but it also makes me so infuriated that you had to feel so excited that somebody listened to you. Like it's just, hence why I do this podcast and I fight for endometriosis, is because it's just not right. Like there's something wrong. And I just applaud that doctor for immediately going into action to help you.
Yeah. I had I went to a different OB like this past year, and I brought like my folder. They always give me like the surgery pictures and stuff, and I brought it, and I'm like, you guys are not denying that I have this. I'm like, I got it. And I actually heard the nurse kind of telling the doctor like before she came in, she's like, yeah, she has like a folder and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I got kind of mad. I was like, you just don't get it. I'm like, nobody believes me. Like nobody, I'm like, I legit need these pictures and you to see them for most doctors to believe me. Like, I'm like, you just don't get it. Like,
and I think, and I'm not making an excuse, but I do think the younger you are and you're going through this, I mean, a lot of people with endo aren't taken seriously up until 60. I mean, but I do think when you're younger, it's almost like a pat on the back, like, oh, you're being dramatic. And
exactly.
and it's not like, it's not acceptable. You know your body, like like you know that something is wrong. And even to hear someone say that is just so hurtful. Like, where's your compassion? Well, so what happened with your blood work and the ultrasound and tests?
Yeah, so I did the lab work, and one of the markers for an autoimmune disease kind of came up positive. So then I had to go to a rheumatologist before they would do anything else. And I got like so much blood work done, and I had very high levels of inflammation. Like any inflammation markers were super elevated. They're right up there. So then they took that and they went forward with the ultrasound, and within like 10 minutes she goes, yeah, I see a lot of like the adenomyosis right away. She's like, I see that. And
Wow.
she's like, so if you're debating the surgery, she's like, I would say you need it or you should really do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet that was also a very gratifying moment.
It really was, because there's kind of a part of me at the time I was like, well, I don't know, do you do it? Like, what if they were right and there was nothing in there and it's something else? And then I think with the combination of the blood work and like her looking at that ultrasound already, is like, I need to do this, like I need
And
to.
it's such a common fear because we're told so often that we're either being dramatic or we're not being taken seriously. And so many people fear going into the initial like diagnosis surgery, that they're not going to find anything. And even when I get like a scan still, it feels like a double-edged sword, because it's like, I don't want them to find anything, but I also don't
Yeah.
feel right. So I want them to find something. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's so much emotion. There's so much that goes
Mm-hmm.
into it too, as a person. And just to not have that compassion from the medical
Yeah.
side, not all doctors, but some,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes it that more challenging for you as an individual, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just so
Yes.
hard. So I'm glad that not glad, but glad that they
Mm-hmm.
were finding things that made you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely helped. Yeah.
Yeah. So then did you end up having surgery?
I did. Yeah. It was like a month later. January of 2021 is when I had my laparoscopy. Um, it went good. The prep was not fun, but
You did a bowel prep.
yeah, you got to just go through it. But
So Kelly, why don't you, for the listeners who may not have gone through a bowel prep, and not every surgeon does this,
mhm.
but some do, and I've gone through it. Do you want to tell people, just because there may be people listening that haven't had surgery, or they may be having
Yeah.
surgery, or they may have a bowel prep? I just feel like it would be helpful. So you
Mhm.
don't have to give all the gory details, but you can explain what you
um,
say when what you mean when you said it wasn't
yeah.
fun.
So yeah, besides like you get like a lot of just different medications you have to take like a week before, and like that's pretty easy. But yeah, they give you, I don't remember how many ounces of whatever it is you have to drink, but you have to mix it with like, I think any color but like red or purple Gatorade or something, and you basically mix like the Miralax with it, and you have to drink like, felt like 2 gallons of it or something within like 4 hours, and it just tasted so gross, and it was not fun.
And then it clears your bowels.
Yeah.
So everyone can imagine how
Yeah.
you feel when that's happening. Honestly, I mixed mine once with like watermelon water or something. I was like, oh, I love
Oh,
watermelon.
yeah.
I still cannot drink that to this day.
Mm-hmm.
It
No.
was that bad. I bet you
Yeah.
probably feel that way about whatever flavor Gatorade you
Yep.
have.
Yep. The Gatorade, it's not happening anymore.
All right. So you did the prep, you got all cleared out, and then you went in
Yes.
for surgery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Went in and so yeah, they gave me like a folder, it had all the pictures, and he came in like at my post-op, and he said, yeah, I'd put you around like stage 1, 2 endometriosis, and he showed me on the pictures like them taking it out and different things like that. And it was kind of like you said before, it felt like almost good to be like I wanted to go back to all those doctors and be like, see, like look at, there's literal proof that this is
Yes,
happening. But at the same time, like it's like you don't want it to be in you, but
I
it was
know.
kind of a very like bittersweet, I guess, thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the day of the surgery, everything went well. Did you do outpatient and you were home like
Yes.
that
Yep.
same day?
Yep.
Okay.
Home later that
And
night.
how
Yeah.
was your recovery?
Um, it wasn't too bad. I think what hit me the hardest was I didn't have a lot of pain. Like the first week, I was pretty reliant on pain meds every how many
Yeah.
hours. Really wasn't moving, just not fun. And they did the gas, and they always warn you it carries up to your shoulders for some reason. So that wasn't very fun. But other than that, it wasn't too bad, I guess.
Yeah.
It probably took another month, maybe almost 2 months, for me not to move a wrong way and feel like a pull in my stomach,
Yeah.
or to like lifting a backpack did not happen for like a month and a half later if it was too
Yeah.
heavy. Like I think that's what hit me the hardest compared to the pain initially.
Yeah. I always like to ask that because it affects everyone differently, your
Mm-hmm.
recovery time and how you recover. And sometimes these doctors say 2 weeks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
2 weeks? Like,
No.
there is no way I am going
No.
back to work in 2 weeks.
No.
Like, unless I'm laying in the bed watching movies, like there is
Yes.
no way. If that's my job, then
Yes.
I should be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I like to discuss it. And the
Mm-hmm.
gas pain, like for people who haven't had surgery before,
Yeah.
maybe you're listening, it is weird. It's they pump up your stomach with gas. So because your abdomen's pretty small and all your
Mm-hmm.
organs are jammed into this really tiny space. So they blow up your tummy with gas, CO2. So CO2, right?
Yeah.
So they can see everything a little bit better, but it's so weird because you get these like gas bubbles that get trapped in your shoulder and it's really painful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to describe. It's almost more painful than the abdomen, like the
Oh
healing of
yeah.
the surgery.
Yeah.
So like heating pads help with that, moving
Mm-hmm.
around in certain
Yeah.
ways to just like release the gas. Your body, I guess, absorbs it. Or I think you like also move it out, through your
Yeah.
mouth or through tooting,
Yeah.
but you do move it out. But
Yeah.
it can take a couple days and it really
Yeah.
hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so in your follow-up appointment and you got the pictures and you have your
Mm-hmm.
staging, what are you doing now, or what, like after that appointment, what was your plan?
Um, I was still at the time on just like the typical, like, yeah, it's birth control. I was kind of good with that yet. I'm like, they kind of said they wanted to be on it so it doesn't cause anything worse, anything like that. And I was doing pretty good until kind of more towards the end of 2021. I just kind of felt like, looking back at pictures was so obvious. Like my face was just like so puffy, and I just felt kind of off. I just kind of felt like blah again, and I got like so worried it was coming back. And she's like, "Well, maybe we'll just try like some different kind of combination of medications." And so then I went on. Honestly, I don't remember the name now, but it was like two different medications combined, kind of had the same effects of birth control, but it's just a little different. And I did pretty okay on that. And then actually this year, I've kind of been looking into more of like the natural side, and I've kind of been realizing how not great birth control like can be for some people. And so I kind of talked about it with a few doctors, and then I've been off it since around February of this year.
Okay. And how are you feeling?
Way better than I think I
Good.
was. Yeah, way better. I feel like I have emotions again, and I don't love that my face breaks out like it is today. I
You
miss
look
that.
beautiful. I do not see anything in your face, just so you know.
um, but yeah, I'm like, I have emotions again. I like the face puffiness went down. I feel a lot better. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. And
Yeah.
going back to the surgery really quick, and then I want to talk about
Yeah.
the natural stuff that you're doing. Did they
Mm-hmm.
diagnose you with adenomyosis as well?
Yes, they do. They did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that and endo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're off birth control, doing more natural stuff. For people who
Yes.
are listening that may be interested in trying that route, what are
Mm-hmm.
you doing? Are you working with a specific doctor? Like teach us how you got to where you are.
Yeah. So I did a lot of research about it, like the best things like kind of to do like coming off it. I just was watching like things on Instagram. There's like a ton of amazing Instagram profiles on this. And so I kind of just was like messing around. It's taken a while to get to where it is, but I think the biggest things that have helped me so far, I take turmeric every morning. I've noticed that has made a big difference in the inflammation. It just seems to be helping me a lot.
Great.
Um, I've also been starting to take just a prenatal vitamin instead of just like a normal multivitamin. I've noticed that helps. I also have a tendency to have lower vitamin D levels. So I've noticed the prenatal helps really keep that up for me. And I've definitely just been trying to eat better. I've cut out dairy for the most part. Gluten is kind of every now and then thing. I have like a smoothie almost every day. I've been trying like beets and different good things for your liver. So I think I've just been trying to do better about what I eat, like looking up the products that I put on my face and just the things I eat, the chemicals and the cleaners and sprays. And I've been trying to use more glass instead of plastic. So just like little things kind of here and there to help.
Those are such great tips. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because
Mhm.
I went through a similar process where I didn't know, like I would be using Dove moisturizer, and then I
Yeah.
looked and it had like parabens. I didn't
Hmm.
know
Yeah.
any,
Yeah.
like, and my deodorant had aluminum in it,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
all of those things that I really didn't know. And so for listeners, if you're just like overwhelmed and like starting to hear this, it could be a slow process where maybe you
Yeah.
switch your lotion to something more natural, or your body wash or
Hmm.
shampoo. But when you're using all of those things and drinking out of plastic, which I was doing I was microwaving plastic. I don't do that anymore. Everything in our house is glass, like you said. But as I started to just research external, like environmental phytoestrogens, that could be
Hmm.
something good to Google for people who are
Yeah.
listening, and you're just like want to get more education on this. And I'll try and have someone on the show to talk about this. But it was really, Kelly, such a good point, such an eye opener to me. I was
Yeah.
like, I had no idea that
Hmm.
I was putting just a lot more chemicals into my body, and I'm sure it wasn't helping with all the inflammation that I was
Yeah.
struggling with. So I'm so glad that you're feeling better and good. And yeah, so today feeling good, taking the vitamins, and just switched up some lifestyle stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's been really awesome so far. Been loving it.
That's great. That's so great. And then I know you said you're, without taking the birth control, you're having feelings, and I wanted to dig into that too if you
Hmm.
want to talk about that. But
Yeah.
something I definitely noticed when I was taking birth control and after a couple of times I had surgery is I almost felt emotionless. It wasn't that I was sad, and it wasn't that I was like overjoyed. I just felt emotionless, and I know it was because my hormones were probably going through some sort of transition. Is that how you were feeling, or how were you feeling?
Yeah, I think I didn't really notice it until like I came off of it more. Like kind of like you said, it wasn't like you were just sad or depressed. It just like I just felt like you could feel things like at a higher level. I started, I mean it's not fantastic, but like crying more at things. Like I was like I realized like how much I guess I just didn't do that. Like I feel like I can feel like those emotions more deeply. Like if you're happy, you just laugh more and things kind of hit you in the feels, I guess, more, and you can cry at things. And I feel I just felt you could feel like this whole range of emotions compared to like the little that I was feeling when I was on the birth control.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you mentioned therapy, and you're still going to therapy, and that's something that has that helped you through obviously dealing with a diagnosis of endometriosis, also maybe not being listened to by doctors. Have you gone into that and worked through some of that? And is that something you recommend to people who are listening?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely I'm the person I am today because of her. She's amazing. And yeah, we talked a lot about like that lack of validation from the
Yeah.
doctors, that she's like you had a legitimate thing going on with you and they told you you were wrong. Like that doesn't make you feel okay. She's like somebody needs to listen and be there. And so I 100% would recommend it for people who can go. Just
Yeah.
it's so awesome. You can just see things differently, and it helps you get out of that. Sometimes I can get in a funk of like this is my forever. Like I might need another surgery. Like
Yeah.
just the what ifs. So I think it's definitely helps can reframe your mind.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful tip for everybody listening. And I was talking to another endo patient who was on the podcast yesterday, and she and I were just talking about how sometimes when you get a pain or you're not feeling right and you start to go down that rabbit hole, like what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, like, oh my gosh, the endo's back, I'm going to be sick forever, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And it's such a great way to reframe. I think that's such a good tip. And also, like, we got to take it one day at a time, just like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what tomorrow may
Yeah.
bring, and you may wake up and feel very well, you may not. But it is very easily to get overwhelmed when you have an illness like this, because
Mm-hmm.
it's unpredictable, I
Yes.
guess is the best term that I would use, that causes this just like additional layer of stress.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
So I like that, reframing it and going down that route of, we're taking this one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
For
for sure.
sure. Awesome. Well, Kelly, anything else to add, or any tips or tricks or things that you feel can help endo patients who are tuning in?
I guess just say like you really are your best advocate. That there's going to be, unfortunately, people that try to tell you it's not true or you're making things up, but to really just keep pushing until you find something that fits you or makes you feel right. Because I could have stopped at Doctor Two and I don't know where I would be right now. But you unfortunately you do kind of have to keep pushing through the bad doctors.
Yeah, for sure. And you're 20 or 21 now?
20.
20. So yeah, I mean, you're young and you feel good and you're healthy and vibrant, and that's the way that it's supposed to be when
Yeah.
you're that age, right? And
Yeah.
I agree with the advocacy. People hear me talking about it all the time. The other thing that you mentioned about what you did and being an advocate is you went in with your pictures, you went in with your folder, and even though that nurse said that, I do feel like, and I mention this all the time, go in prepared, go in with your
Yes.
pictures, go in with your folder, go in with your binder, go in with your phone notes, whatever. Just the more, and yes, you shouldn't have to do that, but the more that you have that backs up everything that you're saying, it does help. And it's, I've walked in with a giant binder before, but it helps because this is my data and this is what you need to listen to.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah. All right. Well, wonderful. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. I hope you continue to feel well. And for everybody listening, this episode is dropping in December. So no matter what you celebrate, I'm wishing you very happy holidays and a very happy 2023. Can't believe it.
Oh yeah, crazy.
All right. Thank you, Kelly, so
Oh,
much.
yeah. Thank you for having me.